Hey, Luke, apologize for getting this module so late to you. It was one of the longer ones in the first beta course, and so I wanted to condense it. It was 47 minutes the first time. I really want to bring it down, minus all the other Boston kids, traveling, losing my power cord, finding it again, all that stuff. And so we're gonna get right into it, but I appreciate your patience on this one. We can definitely even push the course back like a week, right? I think with Sabrina being around, I think that it might make more sense to really just go at a slower pace this last week and a half. And so we can take it at our own pace. We can chat some more about that. Let's get into the module and we'll do it right here. So this one is called Motivation Momentum, Increasing Our Odds for Success. It's module 5, so we're definitely getting into it. There's 2 parts to this module. The first part is what hinders our momentum, and the second part is maintaining momentum. So really understanding what holds up, and it's really talking about procrastination and why we don't take action on things from time to time. And the second is, once we do have momentum, how do we keep that going? So this is one of my favorite slides in the course for sure, and it's really the quote in Muhammad Ali. You got to love the guy. But this quote from this book, Mindset, The New Psychology of Success by Carol Dweck, it really explains, from my point of view, how people just don't perceive the options and opportunity in their life. And the quote is this: "We like to think of champions and idols as superheroes who were born different from us. We don't like to think of them as relatively ordinary people who made themselves extraordinary." So the question is, how do we become extraordinary ourselves? Like, how do we develop this mindset for success to really start moving forward to be extraordinary? And this is where having practical skills and having mindset come into play. Last week's module was very much about psychology and mindset. This one's going to be a little more half and half, but definitely we're still moving forward with the mindset part. So let's make ourselves extraordinary. Let's stop procrastinating, and let's keep adding momentum to our lives, because that's really what this is about. You're moving forward with your carpentry business, you're seeing progress. We want that momentum to keep going, and we don't want to stop and procrastinate on things that are going to hold us up. And this is my segue for a book called The Procrastination Equation. And this is a book that fundamentally shifted the course entirely when I read it, or most of it when I read it, because I went through the parts that I liked and didn't read what I didn't need to. It blew my mind. The procrastination equation, which I'll explain to you in a second, really for the first time in my life made me understand how motivation functions, because it's basically an equation for explaining motivation, and when we have motivation and when we don't have motivation, and what zaps our motivation and what enhances it. And so this was like a very logical way of understanding motivation from a cerebral standpoint, and my prefrontal cortex loved it. And so I really got into this book, and this guy's he's a PhD guy. He's a prof at University of Calgary, Pierce Steeles. He's a Canadian guy. So another little sweet little benefit that he's a Canadian dude, which I don't mind at all. So let's get into his equation. There's 4 variables, basically. There's expectancy, value, delay, and impulsiveness. And I'm going to explain these one by one and then get into the equation. So the first one is expectancy. What is the likelihood that we're going to achieve our goal? And this is pretty straightforward. Expectancy speaks for itself. Can we expect to achieve what we want to do, or not expect to get it? The next one is the value. What personal values is going to bring for you? So think of it, expectancy is the likelihood. It's like an odds. Is it 80% chance you'll do it, 50% chance you'll be able to get done? Value, it's like the personal value it's going to bring to you and how that's going to impact you. Now, the next 2 are detrimental variables, things that will zap our motivation, things that will take us away from doing the thing that we need to. And so impulsiveness is one of the biggest things that kills our motivation and enhances procrastination. And so procrastination and impulsiveness are highly correlated. The more impulsive somebody is, the more they procrastinate. And that's just the studies and science that he's done from his research. And we've talked a lot about impulsiveness in modules 2 and 3. Cal Newport with deep work, like turning off our cell phones, turning away from the internet, and having these states of deep work where we're doing nothing but working on our genius and our talents. That's really, we're taking away that impulsiveness. So we're not distracting ourselves from things we need to do. So this is something that we've discussed a little bit, but it is a fundamental part of the equation and something that you really need to understand. And next is delay. And think of delay as in time, sequencing, and not sequencing, but time. And so time in like how far off in the future is the goal that you want to achieve, right? So if we think of it in hours, days, weeks, it's the unit of time from the present, and the most important variable to understand, it's the present moment to how far off is the task that we want to achieve or the next event in our life. So you'll understand that a bit more as we go through it. But yeah, it's really like the delaying gratification is what it is. How long until we get the gratification, the dopamine, the reward for doing what it is we need to do. So if we start breaking down the procrastination equation, and here's the equation, a little bit of math. Oh, we're going to go back one because we didn't want to do double click. So the expectancy times value. So this is what's going to enhance our motivation, increase it going up. So if we expect something to happen, let's say we have a 100% likelihood that we're going to be able to do something, we're probably going to do it because we know we can do it. We expect something, we can expect that we can do it, then we'll go through with it. The value is the personal value it's going to bring for you. So if you know that you're going to make a piece of table and that's going to bring you $3,000 of money, it might not be pure profit because there's costs involved for wood and things like that, the coating, the welding, all that stuff. But there's value. So what is the value it's bringing you personally? And then what is the expectancy that you're going to be able to do that? Can you build that table? Can you sell it, etc.? Now there's two things that will pull away from your motivation, and that's impulsiveness and delay. And so the impulsiveness is everything that comes up in your life that distracts you from it. And this is where procrastination comes in hand. Are you on Facebook? Are you on Twitter? Are you doing things that are not directly beneficial to building a new table or selling that table or building your business? These are all things that correlate to procrastination and being impulsive. Delay is something that's in the future that is going to pull you away from doing a task. So let's say like you need to get your table done by next week, but Connor texts you and like, hey, let's go out for drinks, or Mike texts you, or Alex asks you to go out for drinks. You're like, well, I'd rather do drinks than go out for and build my table. I still have time to build my table. And so the delay is what's in near future, what's happening closer that's going to pull you away from the task at hand. And so all these things add up to our motivation. So it's expectancy times value. That's what's going to increase our motivation. And then the impulsiveness, things that pop up that we procrastinate with, and delays, other events or things that come up that will pull away our motivation because we're not going to be focusing on what we need to get done. So hopefully that makes sense. If you have any questions on that, we can definitely talk some more about it in the call, or you can chat with me about it, give me a shout. But I'm going to give you a few case studies here to understand a bit better, and hopefully it'll make sense for you a little bit more. So here's a procrastination equation scenario. And basically I thought of this one as like when I was working at Pender in finance, very much how this would have impacted a certain scenario. So let's say that I needed to get a new budget into them for like my quarterly sales at Pender, and it was due on Monday. And if I did this, I got in the proposal for my sales for the quarter, I'd be inclined to get a promotion and a raise. So there's a lot of value there potentially for me because I know if I get a promotion and a raise, they're very good things. I'll make more money. I can expect that if I get a promotion, it's going to give me a new job title, etc. Expectancy is high because it's a small company. I know it's doing well, so I can really expect these things to happen. But let's talk about something that will pull away my motivation to get the budget or the sales plan done by Monday of next week. So in this scenario, I'm like, let's say it's Tuesday. So that means my sales plan has 6 days for me to get done because today is Tuesday. And then Monday is when I need to submit it in this scenario. And so somebody texts me for drinks and like, hey, let's go out for drinks. So here's an impulsive situation where I can get pulled away from doing my sales plan because I know that, well, I can be out for drinks in 30 minutes with my friends, and that's going to be, I'm going to get rewarded dopamine from that. It's going to be social, it's going to be interactive, it's going to be fun, it's pleasant, my brain's going to enjoy that. So that's much closer in time, and that's when we're going to delay in a second. But it's the impulsiveness of really being pulled away. It's like, here's a situation where it's something that is a text, it comes into my life, it's an opportunity to get distracted, and that is where we need to be able to really understand and manage those situations. Is it wise for me to go out for drinks with my friends and hang out, or am I being impulsive and procrastinating from what I really need to do? And that's where the connection is from impulsiveness to procrastination. Now going on to delay, and this is kind of what I touched on a little bit, when I can be at drinks with friends in 30 minutes versus getting the sales plan done, which is in 6 days, that time frame, so 6 days is like, how many hours? 24 times 6, it's like 150 hours away. While if something's 30 minutes away, the brain is much more likely to go for something in the near future than it is something that's 150 hours away. So we're much more likely to go for drinks with our friends in 30 minutes and do something closer in proximity than something that's 150 hours away. And so the more you can understand that, and this is why bringing future goals into the present so important, because we can delay ourselves all the time. And this is what happens, is that we choose something that's more exciting and enticing for the mind in near proximity and time from the present. If I can do something in 30 minutes, like go for a swim or go for yoga, it's like, that's way more appealing than me doing a podcast that's going to be out a week from now. So that's how the mind works, because we want to get that reward right away. Well, the sooner the better. And so the more you're aware of these things, it's about delaying gratification. It's like, okay, yes, it'd be fun to go out for drinks or go for yoga or go for a swim in 30 minutes, but I need to focus on my table. I need to focus on getting my podcast out, because yes, that's a week away, but that's the most important thing for me right now. So the more you can be aware that, you can start focusing on the long-term vision, as opposed to just the present moment and being more impulsive. And this is, we've talked a bit about this in the course, about connecting your future goals to the present. And you can really see it coming back in this procrastination equation, how the mind works. Because this is a very mental model of like, the mind will go after the thing that's closer in the future. If something is 30 minutes away, we're going to want to do that more than that's a week away. And that's just our natural hardwiring, because we can envision that, we can like taste it, we can already, we're feeling that it's 30 minutes away. Like I already feel myself being in the pool if I want to go swimming. I can feel myself doing yoga or whatever it is. But if we think about 7 days away, that's way more harder for us to contextualize. So being aware of that can help us really make the right choices in the moment. Now, this is an example that's not really going to apply as much to you. I don't believe you did a lot of essay writing when you were in school because you were a chef, so this wouldn't have been as applicable. But I'll quickly go through this. This was a huge guilt relief, where basically Piers Steel talks about how essays are the worst form of procrastination. And essay writing is something that I did a lot in university, and a lot of people do this in university. And it's actually, this is one of the worst ways to stimulate students to learn anything, because if you apply the procrastination equation to it, it is just terrible all the way through. So I'm just gonna go through the variables really quick. Just another way for you to understand how this procrastination works. So an essay, typically the delay is long. So essays, you would get a start of semester, you have like 2 months to do them. Of course, everybody puts them off because I have 2 months to get it done. So you're gonna do so many more things before in that 2 month period than think about the essays due in 2 months. Expectancy. The expectancy of an essay is not that, like, you can get it done, but the grades are subjective. Like, you know, it's relatively easy. So you don't really expect that this is going to really have a lot of impact, because you know that if you just submit it and you do all the essays, you'll probably pass your degree, etc. So it's not something that's really like you're expecting a lot from. And so it's not really that incentivizing to do it. On the value standpoint, it's low because it's grueling in nature. There's lots of research. The reading and writing is not very fun. So personal value, there's not a lot of value for yourself, because really nobody really likes writing essays. Some people, I guess, like writing and reading, but it wasn't for me. And most people don't enjoy that, and the research is part of it. So it tends to be disliked, and it's harder to motivate yourself. And the last one is the impulsiveness. When you're a student, if you have 2 months to do something, how many opportunities to distract yourself come up in between that time? There is 100 better things to do than to go and write an essay when you're a student. And so this is why Piers Steel talks about essay writing is a very poor way of challenging students to achieve knowledge and research and learning, because there's just better ways to stimulate them. And so he's actually against it, which I find quite interesting. We're going to move on to planning. He says that planning is one of the best ways to combat impulsiveness, and allows ourselves to transform distant deadlines into the present day ones. And so this is reminiscent of module 2 and 3, right? Where we're talking about bringing the future to the present day. We're breaking things down. And so here's another example of a guy who studies productivity, procrastination, saying that the best way to overcome impulsiveness is to bring your future deadlines into the present day, right? And this guy studies this for a living. This is what he does. He's like a PhD, he's a prof, and he speaks about this and researches it. And so obviously, like, if this is one, and this book's really new, if this is what we understand at this stage in 2017 about productivity, it's one of the only ways to circumvent it. Like, there's just no sexy way to make our future goals come to the present unless we focus our attention on that. And that's just the reality of it. So he brings up this Piers Steel brings up this really interesting graph, and the best way to explain it, I get my laser right here, is let's focus on this top point right here. We're going to focus on one point, and it'll be easier to understand it. And so this point is, we have a high motivation to do something, and it's how much we believe we can get it done. Because basically you have optimism, which is our belief at the bottom, and motivation to do something. So we are going to do the task that stretches out of our comfort zone. And this goes back very much to social fluency and cognitive behavioral therapy, where it's like this gradual exposure, where it's like you believe your skill set here, and then it's like take a step outside of your comfort zone and then go explore that territory, learn some new skills, come back into your comfort zone, and then keep going back out. So what he's found is that we're highly motivated to do things that there's a threshold where it's like we believe we can do something and we believe we can't do something. And that's the edge we're always kind of playing with, because down here is where we can't, this is the things we can't do. And I've highlighted it because if we don't believe we can do something, like let's say I want to make $5 million this year, like that to me is a very unrealistic goal. Like I just don't have the systems in place to make $5 million. I don't even know what I'd sell to make $5 million. Like that just seems absolutely impossible to me to do that. So my mind is not going to start taking action on a goal like let's make $5 million this year because it's just not believable. And that's why there's this happy medium of like what we believe is possible. So for you, it's like you believe you can start a carpentry business, you believe you can make sales off it, you can believe you can live off it. But at the same time, like there's like we talked about in this call, like there's the doubt. You saw that table at Winners, and you're like, well, can I do this or not? And so, but that's exactly where you want to be, like this threshold of like, yeah, maybe it's possible, maybe it's not, because you're challenging yourself. So like you believe in it, but there's a part of you that's kind of skeptical. And so here's where we have this nice threshold of like you're highly motivated. And this is why when Sabrina was around, it's like you wanted to do it. You maybe weren't as present as you could have been, etc. But you can see how this is an important area to be living. And this is kind of where we want to be. We want to believe we can do it, but at the same time be at that edge of like, maybe we can't. And this is where our motivation is the highest. And so this is important to recognize and be aware of this point. And you can see here, so like when we know we can do something like 100%, like for me, like, you know, let's say serving in tennis. It's like, well, I know I can serve in tennis really easily. It's like, so I'm not gonna go practice that. But for me, maybe doing like 25 push-ups in a row, that's harder to do. So now it's like, well, I'm motivated to do that because it's like, I want to be able to do 25 push-ups in a row. So there's these correlations between if something's very easy for us, we're not that motivated to do it. But as it becomes more challenging, then we want to do it. But if it's impossible, we have zero motivation to do it because our mind is like, I can't do this. So like, why would I do it? And this actually brings us to last week's slide of growth and confidence where Todd Herman was talking momentum. And so again, you can see how like there's this overlap of like confidence is this threshold of like, can I do it? Can I not? And when we're growing and challenging ourselves, we're getting momentum. And that exact last slide, which I have here, is exactly, we're playing with this growth area. This is where we're challenging ourselves. And this is when we can learn new confidence. We can develop new skills. And as you sell a table, as you build your brand, as you get your website, you get more confident in your business that you can do this and you can live off it. And that's where we want to be playing. This is the area where we have optimal performance because we're challenging ourselves to grow and we're moving forward. So there's 4 keys to succeeding with the procrastination equation. Is what I want to wrap up with. And so basically it's increasing our expectancy. We want to try to, how do we, if we believe we can only do it 50%, how do we make it at 75%? How can we heighten that we believe in ourselves? 2, we want to pursue objectives that have high personal value for us, things that will bring us a lot of wealth and growth and personal satisfaction, whether that's monetary or just more emotional. And 3rd is decreasing impulsiveness. We want to be, and we've talked a lot about this in the other modules, how to not be impulsive, how to not get distracted. And 4 is minimizing our delays. And this is really bringing the future goals to the present, deconstructing things, which we've talked a fair bit about. But I've created this fancy little thing called Radar, and that's what we're gonna get into the next part. And this is part 2, combating the procrastination equation. And so Radar is this thing that I've come up with to, and if we go back to these 4 things, that it really solves these areas from my point of view. And the idea is that we have our goals, and I used Radar because it's like, how do we keep our goals on the radar? So we're focused, we're dialed in, and the more we can have it on the radar, the closer to like what we want to achieve, the better off we're going to be. And so Radar stands for returns, anticipate, depleted, accept, reversible. And it's really meant to combat the procrastination equation and challenge all 4 of the variables that I just talked about in this last slide, the keys to succeeding the procrastination equation. And so I've been playing with this Radar thing a little bit, and it's really meant to be like a quick recall thing. It's like when I'm in a moment, I'm like, and I feel like I'm sucking at my goals in life, I'm like, where on the Radar thing can I tap into one of these mindsets to really start moving forward again with it? So the first one is returns, and this comes from an idea called success spirals. And success spirals comes from Peter Steele's book, The Procrastination Equation. I know you love sailing, so this is definitely a metaphor completely up your alley. This right here is the Polynesians. They are the people who invented the catamaran. You may know this, you may not, but basically they had canoes that they would use for like fishing on their local islands and stuff like that. But they would see these islands off in the distance, and here's a map of the Polynesian. And there's over 1,000 islands in the Polynesian Sea or ocean area. I don't know the exact term for it, but basically they would be on this island and they would see another island out in the distance. And they're like, well, we want to get to that island. And so they'd be like, okay, well, we're going to tie 2 canoes together. We put a sail on it. We're going to have our provisions and all our supplies. We're going to sail to that island. And that's what they would do. And so they would do this again and again because they'd get to an island and then be like, shit, there's another island over there. There's another island. And they would keep colonizing these islands. And eventually there's over 1,000 islands that these Polynesians discovered, the original ancestors of this territory. And so Piers Steel makes this proposition of like success spirals. And really what a success spiral is that you have a target in front of you and it's like preparing your catamaran. It's like, we want to get to that island. So you put your sails on you tie your canoes together, your 2 canoes, you put your sail on, you bring all your food, water, things that you need, and you sail across and you get there and you've had success. You achieved your objective because you discovered a new island as the Polynesians did. And then what happens is that you see another island and then you want to keep moving forward to that island. So you do the same thing. You get your provisions, you put your sails on your canoes, you tie them together, and you go find another island. And this is a success spiral. And you keep going down this again and again. And we've talked a bit about this, like connecting oil barrels in the second module. And you can see ideas that repeat themselves again and again. And these productivity guys are like, this is just the way that you get it done. Like there's only so many recipes for success. And so I use the word returns because it's an investment principle where we want returns on our money, right? If we invest $10,000, we want a return on that. We want, let's say 20%, we want that to be $12,000. So you got to start thinking of your actions like, are my actions going to return me value, monetary value, emotional value? And if we can think of the returns that our actions are bringing us, we can start creating success spirals in our life. And that's what the first R in radar stands for, is returns. And so we want our actions to return us value. And so I get into a little bit more here. So the key to obtaining returns is to challenge our beliefs. And this is what Piers Steel says, is that it's key that if we really want to succeed, it's really about challenging ourselves. And he has this quote that we were broken and tamed at some point. We don't realize how easily our potential could be regained if we only tried. And he gives a classic, the elephant metaphor, where the baby elephant's on a stick, the stick is in the ground, it's a peg, he's on a string, the baby elephant wrestles and tries to get away from it, but he can't. He's not strong enough. And as the elephant gets older, the same little peg keeps that elephant in the ground because he's not willing to try to pull at it, even though he's a big elephant and can easily get away. And so this metaphor that we've done things in our lives that maybe we didn't get the results that we want to have the success, but we're more knowledgeable now. We have more information. We're wiser. We have a bigger network of people. We have a wider vantage point. We're more mature. We can take a longer approach. And so we need to challenge our beliefs of, can we really keep moving forward to achieve the things we want? Because if we do, we can keep growing and developing. And so he outlines these 3 steps, which is very much cognitive behavioral therapy, a thing that you can recognize as social fluency. And it's just really about, it's a 3-step process to keep challenging our beliefs and how do we grow. So he says, step 1, pick an area of your life you want to improve a little beyond your current skill set. And so you identify something. For you, it's like you want to make a little bit more money with your carpentry skills on your own, right? You don't want to no longer be employed by somebody else. You want to work for yourself, and you want to start making a little money by yourself, by building your own furniture and selling to people. Then second is you start setting small improvement in skills, and you want to recognize these victories. So for you, it's like, okay, I have a logo going now. I have my business card coming up. I'm moving forward with my brand. And so you see these little, you want to start paying attention to these victories. And this is exactly wild brain thinking, of looking at your accomplishments in the past, as opposed to just, like where am I lacking? What do I not have? I'm not making $10,000 off my furniture. I'm not on pace to build 12 pieces this year. This is taking longer than I thought. It's not about that. It's about the victories. It's about the progress that you've made, because progress is more important. The speed at which you're operating at, that is your own perception, your own human construct. And time is a human construct, right? So we need to be more patient with our time, because it's not important how long It's more important that we get it done. And as long as there's progress, that's the most important thing. So step 2, Peer Sales, is in paying attention to our little victories. And the third is breaking down tasks into smaller and smaller pieces, because this allows us to have success. And so we've talked a lot about this. Again, bringing your future goals into the present. The more we can deconstruct things into manageable pieces, then we're like to take action on it. If something is too big, if the project is overwhelming, let's say that a millionaire hired you to do the carpentry of his entire house, you might be overwhelmed with that. Yes, I could do that, but maybe that job might not even be profitable for you because you just don't have maybe the experience, the framework, the tools to really execute on that. So it's about bringing things down to smaller and smaller pieces to really be able to succeed. And you can see how like even his 3-step process, we've talked a bit about it in the course in different aspects already. So again, repeating patterns. It's important to notice when things repeat, because there has to be truth when same people that are PhDs, study human behavior patterns, are saying the same things again and again. So ways to enhance your returns, and this is like for your actions to return you value, is to set ongoing attainable goals, right? Things that we can really achieve. We break things down, and so we know it's manageable for us. 2 is reflecting the goals we've achieved. It's really about the wow brain thinking of like, wow, I've made progress, I've made achievements. That's going to fuel us to keep going. 3rd is taking responsibility and understanding that life is not set up for us to have these like systematic little goals along the way. That is your personal responsibility to keep deconstructing and breaking things down, because day-to-day life is not set up for people to succeed. It's just an entrepreneur. It's going to be your job to manage yourself and to break things down. What's the next skill you need to learn? What's the next task you need to get done? So we have to take responsibility of creating little achievable goals. And this is where coaching comes in hand, and having a course and a structure to be able to keep moving forward with the things we want to achieve. 4th is we want to celebrate personal triumphs. And I misspelled celebrate there. I'm looking at that now. But it's key. We want to celebrate personal triumphs. We want to really be able to acknowledge our victories. And it's so key, because if we don't develop that skill of celebrating the things that we've accomplished, we're not conditioning wow brain thinking. And the 5th that he, Peer Sales outlined in his book, is success stories. So even being around people that are having success in their lives, and this is where kind of being around Man Talks and seeing people that are succeeding is important, because it goes back to the idea of like the 5 people you surround yourself with, you are the most, that's who you are. And so if you see the people in your life succeeding in business in different aspects, then you start believing in it too, because you're like, if that person can do it, then why can't I? And even he says like watching motivational movies, this gives us motivation and inspires us to go after it. So hearing success stories, being around successful people inspires us to keep taking actions that will have personal returns and benefit for us. So that's returns. And again, it's, if you think about it, what actions can you take that are going to return you value? That's the biggest way of looking at it. You want to keep adding, an investment. We want returns to be positive. You want to start taking actions that are going to have positive returns on your life. And that's the R in Radar, the first R, to really help you start moving forward and keep having momentum in the things that you're doing. Okay, next slide. So the second thing is anticipate. And this is the second A in Radar. And so anticipate comes with the idea of mental contrasting. And mental contrasting is something that Piers Steele's brought to my attention in his book, The Procrastination Equation. You can see how much I love this book. And he talks about this paper by Gabrielle Ontenegin. I probably mispronounced her name, but she's a prof at NYU at University. And she had this paper, and it really talked about when people do mental contrasting, and it's this idea of looking at the present and your ideal, and understanding of like what you're going to have to face, what obstacles are going to come up along the way. Because when we look at our ideal life, and let's say for you, it's like making $100,000 from selling furniture, what obstacles are you going to have to overcome in order to succeed to get that point? And she said the more we can anticipate our setbacks, the more likely we will be able to overcome them, because we're anticipating the obstacles that are ahead for us. And so it's interesting because mental contrasting from her studies have found that it improves academic performance, it improves health, it helps people quit smoking. And so like you make how, but like, so even for students, like based on what I read was that students that anticipated when they're having a test or an exam, that if they can predict what they were going to come as a stumbling block during that exam, then their mind was like, hey, we knew it's going to happen. And so we're much more prepared to actually overcome that obstacle. Same thing with like going to the gym, eating healthy. Let's say there's a piece of cheesecake that comes up in your day and you're like, no, I really want to eat healthy, have a six-pack, I'm not gonna have a cheesecake. So the more we can anticipate, the poor things that are gonna come up and challenge our willpower and our ability to succeed with our goals, the more likely we are to succeed. Because even with health, right? Like, let's just think about eating for the day. If at lunch we know we have to eat a healthy meal and at dinner we have to eat a healthy meal, what can we do to prepare to ensure success for that? And if we go out to the food court and there's all this shitty food, then you might end up eating a poor meal. But the more you can anticipate what it is that's going to stumble you up along the way, the more likely you are to succeed. And the data in the study proved it. So mental contrasting is a very important tool to really be able to increase the likelihood of success, because most people, when they run into a roadblock, they just quit and give up. But if you can see that roadblock coming, when you get there, you're like, I've already anticipated this a little bit. I thought about this. It's not so overwhelming for you if you know that it's going to be coming up. And so that's the A, the second A, or the first A in radar. It's anticipate. If we can anticipate what's going to stumble us, block us up, then this is called mental contrasting, then we can really start moving forward on this. And so I have an anticipate mental contrasting exercise. I'm not going to read through the whole thing because these are things that you can do the exercise on your own. It's pretty self-explanatory. This module was about 47 minutes last time, so I'm not going to go in depth about the exercises, but it's really about focusing on what is the positive aspects in your life and then the obstacles ahead. And the more we can identify these obstacles, we can start preparing to tackle them. And so you can apply this to your business and seeing what obstacles might be coming up. And even like the welding and the coding that we've been talking about, this is exactly what it is. Like, these are things that if you can anticipate these roadblocks, what can you do? Like, because there's gonna be other roadblocks coming ahead. What can you do to speed up this process? Because then you get there, you're like, it's not so daunting for you, and you're not as likely to give up on it and quit on the project at hand. So the third is D, and this is depleted. And this goes back to willpower. And there's a great book I'm reading right now called The Willpower Instinct. And I read some of it for this course, but I've fallen in love with it. And so I'm going through it slowly. It's actually like a course structure. So I'm like doing it like 1 week, and kind of going through this like self-guided course. But willpower is a very fascinating thing. And the most important thing to know about willpower is it's limited. And so basically throughout the day, we start with X amount of willpower, and it's highest when we wake up first in the morning and gets depleted as the day goes by. And so if we understand that willpower gets depleted, there's 3 types of willpower that human beings have. The first one is I won't. And I won't willpower is basically, I won't have a cigarette, I won't smoke weed, I won't eat cheesecake today, I won't eat chips, I won't do anything bad, I won't, right? It's kind of like this barrier of things that you won't do because you have a goal, something you want to achieve, and you're just not going to do it anymore. I will willpower is like, I will get in better shape. I will start going to the gym. I will start running at 7 a.m. I will start lifting weights. These are things that we want to do, we want to achieve, and it's the things that we're going to start doing or are doing to start moving forward to a goal of, like, let's say I want to be stronger, I want to have a six-pack, I want to be in better shape. It's about this vision of what we want. Now, the most important willpower, and I hinted on a little bit, is the I want, the distant future of like, I want to be in the best shape of my life. I want to have that six pack. I want to be a millionaire. I want to be able to travel around the world and not worry about my business. These are the things that really can drive us, because I want is that bigger vision of what we want to achieve. And it's actually I want willpower that is the strongest willpower that exists. So the author of the book says, I want willpower is the most important because it keeps us aligned and focused on the goals that we want to achieve. And so she talks about how I want connects us to our long-term vision. So if I want to have a six-pack, then I know that when I'm out in my day-to-day life, that eating shitty food like chips or cheesecake is going to be detrimental to that goal. So it's a way of really understanding what we want to achieve and having that long-term vision. Now, the I want willpower, it allows you to succeed in the moment, because when that cheesecake comes up, let's say I go out for lunch with a friend and he decides to have some cheesecake and he's like, hey, I'm going to, and I keep saying cheesecake because I love it. It's one of my favorite things. And I am trying to like get in better shape and get a six pack. And so it makes sense for me right now. And so, and he's like, do you want some cheesecake? And I'm like, My impulsive mind will want that. There's sugar. There's so many, like the cravings inside of me will definitely go after that. But to succeed in the moment, you have to know your why. What is it that you're going after? And if you want that six pack and you have that long-term vision, then you can be like, you know what? I'm not gonna have this cheesecake because I have this vision of I want a six pack in 2 months. So that way I'm making all choices in alignment with that. And so it's important to understand that if we have the I want willpower, it allows us to succeed in the moment. And third, it's visualizing where we want to go. And basically visualization has been proven. The more we can think about what we want to achieve, where we want to move to, sports psychology, entrepreneurs, the top psychologists all do this. Tony Robbins speaks about this. It's really important that we visualize. And so I want willpower. When you're making choices from an I want this, you're already visualizing what you want in the future. So it's going back to that again and again. And the more you can do it every single day, the more times, the more moments in any day, you're going to be more likely to see that because you're in alignment with that future goal. So that's the D, depleted. And the big thing to understand is that willpower gets depleted throughout the day. And so if we can understand that willpower gets depleted throughout the day, it's about making the choices that are most important to us at the start of the day. The more we can front load the most important things, it's going to help us make correct choices. And so when our willpower is depleted, that's when we're going to make choices that are not in alignment with our goals and our future vision of ourselves. So depleted is this idea of, I try to encapsulate an umbrella term for it. If we deplete our willpower, we're not probably going to succeed with our goals. So it's really about how do we leverage our willpower when it's strong and high to move forward the goals that we want. 4, accept that you will stall. We're all addicted to delay. And basically this is the second A, and it stands for accept. And having acceptance that we will want to procrastinate, we will want to delay, we will want to be impulsive. And the more we can accept the human condition that this is how we are, when we do trip up and stumble, we're not going to beat ourselves up. One of the most negative things that I find with my goal setting, and we've kind of talked about it, is if we go into these negative spirals, is that that's not good for us. And so we don't want to go in these negative loops. So if we can accept that we're human, we're going to make mistakes, that's going to help us to move forward with our goals. And so the first thing is admitting gives us power. And this comes from Alcoholics Anonymous, and Peter Steele talks about this book, The Procrastination Equation, where AA meetings, it begins with like, we admit we are powerless over alcohol. And it's ironic because when people admit they're powerless over it, it gives them a sense of like hope and inspiration where it's like they admit that they can't control their drinking, but that there is a hope outside of that. And so if we admit that, we are going to procrastinate, that we're going to have delays, which is inevitable as human beings, because there's times when we're just going to be impulsive and give in to cravings, our willpower will be low, we're able to tolerate and accept that about ourselves a little bit better. The second thing is we have to acknowledge that one collapse can lead to an explosion. So let's say you're going to be like, I'm going to watch only one Netflix show. Well, the reality is or I'm going to have one chip or one bite of cheesecake. The reality of this is that one bite opens up Pandora's box, and it can lead to an explosion, a chain reaction of things. So one Netflix show can actually lead to binge watching 6. One chip can lead to the whole bag. And so if you have goals where you want to be productive and you're like, I'm just going to watch one show, well, then all of a sudden 3 hours goes by and you lost the opportunity to work on what you need to with your business card, with your logo, with your website, whatever it is. And so we need to understand that if we do have one collapse, it can have a spiral effect. And the next thing we really need to understand is that we justify ourselves to cheat. So there'll be days when we rationalize that, we should be able to watch one Netflix show because we've worked so hard and it's been a really stressful week, so we're just going to watch one show. Or I've been so healthy with my diet the last 6 days that I deserve to have just a little bit of cheesecake today and cheat. So we will justify these things, and this is just part of being human. So the more we can accept that these are human traits and that we will fall into these traps from time to time, we won't beat ourselves up. And when we do, we're like, okay, that happened. And this really goes back to Preston Smiles, like when he, on my podcast, when he's like, I celebrate all emotions. Like the more we can be in acceptance of what happens in our lives, it really helps us to move forward. And that's a huge lesson I took from speaking with that guy. And so it's important to understand this because we have the limbic system of our brain is the impulsive part of our brain. And this is the part of the brain that's responsible for the now, the present, and it'll ask, can I eat this? Can I fuck it? Well, it's very primal. It's very territorial. And Peter Steele has this example in the book. If you ask the primal brain, do you want $1 million paycheck today or $5,000 for the rest of your life a month, it would say, I want $1 million right now. While your prefrontal cortex brain would want $5,000 a month because that's more spread out and you can live off that easily and you don't have to worry about anything. But limbic brain thinking is very much in the moment, primal, and it's instinctive. And so the more we're aware of this and how it's connected to procrastinating and pulling us away from what we want to do, the more we can accept it and be in acknowledgement of it. And so that's why the second A is accept. We have to accept the human condition. We have a primal brain. We're going to procrastinate. We're going to be impulsive. But it's important, the more we can acknowledge that power over us, the more we can accept when it happens and just move through with it. And the last R, I forgot. So there's a procrastination equation, exercise on acceptance. And basically, this is just to reflect on how we procrastinate in our day-to-day lives. And so it's really productive to understand, where do you keep wasting time again and again? And so this is an important thing to really go through, and it helped me understand where I'm wasting time. So I'd recommend doing this exercise. Now, the last R is reversible actions. It's actually 2 words, but think of it as a reversible. And anything that's reversible, we should take action on right away. And this comes from a Tim Ferriss principle that fear holds us back. He fundamentally believes that the reason why people don't take action is because they're fearful. And when I read this, I was like, this is completely correct, 100% true. And so the quote from Tim Ferriss is, people fail to reach their goals because they are poorly defined. People fail to overcome fear because it's poorly defined. And that's true, because if we are fearful that we are going to fail or we're going to not reach our goals and fearing judges, whatever it is, it's that fear element is what's preventing us from moving forward. And so he has this really good definition of how to overcome fear. And so his definition of fear is this: anything that is irreversible with a negative outcome. And the key word here is irreversible, because most 99% of the things we do in life are reversible. And so if we look at it from this lens of like, fear should be something that's irreversible with a negative outcome, it frees us to take a lot more action. So for example, even like, and I've kind of talked to you about this, like the name Oak and or your logo. The reality is, like, you can change your name 6 months from now. If you get feedback from people saying like, hey man, your name's really not working for you, you need to change it to this, or I'm not buying stuff from you, because that's a reversible action. Like, you can rebrand your business. If your logo has an anchor and people are like, you hear 5-10 times like, hey, this logo doesn't make a lot of sense because there's an anchor in it, you can rebrand your logo. So we spend so much time thinking about things, and it's important to be thoughtful and go through it in detail. But at the same time, if things are reversible, we shouldn't stall too long on them, because too many people avoid making decisions and they don't move forward because they're fearful what's going to happen. And so this definition of fear and this irreversible negative outcome, when you start looking at it from that lens, it's a reframe basically is what it is, then you realize that 99% of things are reversible, and there might be a temporary detrimental negative impact, but we can always fix that. For example, even like I applied this thinking when I left Pender, and I'm like, you know what, like I turned down the promotion and you know, they booted me out of there. But the point being is, like, I can always go back to a very similar job. I could probably even go back to Pender 6 months from like, hey guys, my podcast thing, you know, it's great, but it didn't quite pan out the way I liked it to. I'm not enjoying it anymore. How about you give me another shot? I would say there's like a 50% chance that they'll give me a job again. And if they don't give me a job, you know how many firms there are in Toronto, and there's other boutique firms in Vancouver. So things are reversible, things we can change and can go back. So it's important to understand when something is reversible to take more action on it, because ultimately it's not going to determine our success. It's not going to be the most detrimental factor. If it's irreversible, it's different. And so that's why I love this definition of fear, because it has to be irreversible. Now, there's another guy that really highlights this idea very well. His name is Peter Branton. You probably don't know him, but he was the CEO of Liberty Media. This is a guy that I learned about when I was at Pender Fund Capital, and there's a book called A Life Well Lived, Not Fade Away, that was written about him. He co-wrote it actually before he passed away. He died at an early age, like 42, but he lived a great life. And this guy was a fascinating man. He was a professional skier, which most people don't know. He lived in the Rockies for a long period of time and was an incredible skier, but he was also a very high-power entrepreneur. And he innovated these channels like Sports Fox News, Discovery Channel, QVC, which is the shopping channel, BT, which is the rap hip-hop station. And so he did this like in the 80s and the 90s when these channels were like, you know, when TV was cool and like these channels didn't really exist. So he was a pioneer in the channel space obviously now Netflix and stuff like that and all this YouTube is crushing TV. But back when he did this was like a really big deal. And he was known for going into negotiations with like himself, and he'd be up against like a network of people of 10, and they'd always be like, how's this guy coming in for only one himself? Like we're going to crush him with 10 people. But he had a very interesting philosophy. And his philosophy went back to when he was a professional skier, and he would do all this random jumps in the backcountry and even around where people could see it. And the thing that his philosophy was, and this is, I'll read you the quote, no one gets hurt in the air. And it's about the landing and taking off, right? This is the important thing, is like taking off and landing. If you can think of ski jumping, there's a takeoff and there's a landing. And so he says, no one gets hurt in the air. They only get hurt on landing. If you work on the landing and know exactly what you want to achieve, the takeoff is easier. What makes the takeoff scary is not knowing where you will land. By being overly prepared but appearing reckless, I was able to work situations in my favor. I could distract people with my antics, while all along I knew exactly what I wanted and how to achieve it. I focused on the landing, the execution. And I think this is really important because people are afraid to fall. Whether it's skiing, business, whatever it is, they fail to crash and burn. But Peter practiced the fall, like he practiced the landing. And if we practice the landing enough, and this is kind of where Tim Ferriss is going with like irreversible negative outcome, if we can practice the landing and not be fearful and know what we're getting ourselves into, we can take off a lot easier. We can jump. Jumping doesn't become as scary anymore because the landing is not daunting for us. And we don't have that fear associated with it. And this guy, like would go into boardroom meetings against 10 people and he'd be there by himself. And that would be one of his tactics because he was hyper prepared. And these 10 people were like, well, we're going to crush this guy because like, can one person know? But he would use this to his advantage. It'd be like playing poker where he's showing his cards one way, but deep down inside he has different intentions. And so if we can know the landing, we're much more likely to take off. And I think this is a great metaphor for life and just understanding that fear can hold us back. And if we can think of it this way, it's going to help us to move forward. And so when we're fearful, we're held back, we avoid taking action. And that's why the last R on radar is reversible actions. And if we can realize that a lot of actions are reversible and there's little to no downside, then we're more likely to take off, take the jump and land. And even if the landing doesn't play out for us, we're learning how to land again and again. And the more we can take off, the better we're going to be. And so that's where radar comes in. It's really meant to, and here's a reversible fear exercise. This is from Tim Ferriss's book, The 4-Hour Workweek. I really loved it. I pulled a few questions that I thought were highly beneficial. There's some bonus questions as well. I would highly recommend going through these as they really help me, understand fear. For the longest time as an entrepreneur, I didn't move forward things I wanted to do because I was just so afraid of like, how are people going to perceive it? What if I fuck up? What if I don't have the skills or the resources? There were so many mental internal conversations that were going on with me that these questions and these reframes really helped me to start moving forward. And so the last R is reversible. If actions are reversible, then we should take them at the first possible moment because really they're not going to be detrimental to us. And if we can keep that in mind, we're going to move forward. And so this is radar. This is a thing that I've developed to really help myself, people who have taken this course, you, to really understand that, if we want to keep momentum, there are certain things that are going to stumble us along the way, like we talked about in the procrastination equation. And these are the 4 things that are going to help us have higher expectancy, get more value from what we're trying to achieve, make sure that we're taking away from impulsiveness and reducing delays. If we can keep radar as the focus, it's going to help us stay locked in our goals and combat the procrastination equation. And so that's going to wrap up this module for now. Oh, there's a fun fact I want to throw in on willpower. So reading this book, willpower is the single highest determinant of human potential. So if happiness, health, making money, dealing with conflict, overcoming adversity. So if there's one thing that we want to train as a person, it's our willpower. And Tony Robbins actually talks a lot about willpower too. And so it's the single highest, most correlated factor of human potential and success. If you have good willpower, it seems that everything else in your life will be amazing too. And that's based on the willpower instinct that I'm reading right now. So just a fun fact on willpower. It's really important for us to cultivate and develop as human beings. And so exercise recap really quickly, the mental contrasting exercise, how to anticipate the things that are going to set us back, key to being successful with our goals. Next is reversible actions. What things can we start doing if we can reframe fear and what our limitations are, we can start moving a lot quicker and start taking action. Last, acceptance. This is the procrastination exercise. Where can we identify what's blocking us and moving us from being quicker and moving forward with our goals? If we can understand where we procrastinate, we can accept more parts of ourselves and start overcoming these obstacles. And so here are the resources for this module: the procrastination equation, which I talked about in length; the 4-Hour Work Week, Tim Ferriss. I was talking about fear, and I references fear exercise; Not Fade Away, A Short Life Well Lived, Peter Branson. This is a great novel, very short. This guy died at 42 from cancer, left a wife and 3 kids, but beautifully well-lived life. And I would highly recommend the book if you want to read something that's not as personal development. It was a great story. And The Willpower Instinct by Kelly McDonald. And then a few online resources as well. So if you want to check any of those out, feel free to. Have questions about it, let me know. But this is the 5th module. Apologies again for getting it late to you. I customized it for you. I made it all about you. And so I just wanted to give this a shot. I actually want to play this idea of speaking directly to you. As people say, when you're creating any piece of content, it should always be one person in mind. And so, yeah, I hope you like this module. If you have any questions, it probably went a little bit longer than the other ones. It was 47 minutes the first time around. I'm hoping it's not 47 minutes this time. I know you've been hard-pressed watching them. So hopefully it's around 30 some odd minutes. And yeah, we'll chat soon. And if you have any questions, hit me up.